You've had a lot of your experience with, a lot of Western companies, and then you're coming into, an African company. What are some of your major challenges transitioning to understand our culture, how we think, how we behave, our decision making? What sort of metrics did you sort of combine to say that, okay, I can work with this company?
So I must go back in my own background. One of my early experiences was working in Mexico as a relatively young man, right?
Mm.
And that taught me that you need to first understand what you don't understand. You see what I mean? You need to learn what you don't understand in a new environment. So if you don't pay attention to what's different, so don't worry too much about what you know. Worry about what you don't know. And Ghana is different in some very important ways from many other environments. Each environment is different, but you have to figure out what's different here. So, give you an example, to delegate in this culture, what culture, I talk about the country culture and what they bring to office. To delegate and learn how to delegate is a massive challenge. And to make it worse, if you scream and shout, you now destroyed it.
Yeah.
And that is, so many of the things I've seen in other places applied, but it didn't apply because you had to sort of really take it to a different level to sort of unpick that.
But then what made you comfortable to say that, I'm willing to go from coaching these three entrepreneurs that I've met to now I want to be the board chairman. The opportunity has come in and I want to take that.
I was very reluctant.
Okay.
Because of the responsibility and making sure I was the right person to help guide them, right? So it took quite a long time for Ernst and Alex to convince me that I should be taking it on. And because of to what extent do you really understand the environment? To what extent, if I'm not here all the time, can I pick up on my small things that sort of add up to important things?
Right.
And so one key thing that convinced me was that I'm not just a chairman, right? I continue to be the coach, continue to be involved in the business to understand what's going on, because just show up at board meetings was not going to be something I want to do. And just running the board, it's not just, there's a big responsibility. And particularly if you deal with other people's money. Corporate governance is hugely important, right? Now, what made me happy to do it was the founders, Alex and Ernest, attitude towards governance and doing things right.
Okay. Was that the first time you've realized from an African entrepreneur that has approached you that's willing to do things right?
No.
Okay.
I had several companies when I was a coach here and in Nigeria. I lived here for a year first, I should say. Okay. So that's how I got to learn through a number of different companies and some experience through other businesses that I didn't coach, but I got to see how things can be and how companies can be very successful here, right? So it was not in isolation.
Right. In the coaching days of Hans and Alex and Ernest, what did you do for the company? What did you do for the two of them that pivoted the success of their business?
Well, one thing which was a part of Stanford Seed's program was to write a transformation plan rather than a business plan. Transformation plan, as in, how do we transform the company from this to what we want it to become? Okay. And it was sort of a big dream transformation plan, and then you backfilled with the operational business plans later, and to help it wasn't my creation, but to help them with the process was the first task. And within that was simplify, simplify, and simplify.
I see.
And things like know who your customer is. Some simple things. And don't end up with lukewarm tea. Have you heard that before? No. The audience may not have heard that.
No.
And it's a very simple concept. Some people like hot tea. Some people like cold tea or iced tea. So if I make lukewarm tea, everybody's happy. So the moral of the story is you pick your customer and don't get confused. Know who your customer is and focus and learn. And that is the guiding light. Not that you are a tech company or you get sort of engineer. I saw other companies here that I didn't coach that the common denominator was technology and serving that customer, and you can't scale. You get stuck in variety and confusion and so simplify and know what you're trying to do.
I mean, a lot of African startups who get funding from majority of these VCs, equity firms or whatever, they tend to blow up either the funds or they go crazy with the business and nothing really happens. Have you had that experience with any of these, African entrepreneurs who get given money and, they either go on shopping spree or they mess up the entire...
I have not had a direct experience. Okay. I've heard about it and read about it, but I haven't seen it directly myself.
But how do you think that is affecting the ecosystem?
Oh, I think it's terrible. Absolutely. It's horrendous because it burns investors, and there are lots of other, in any part of the world, investors have, 1 out of 5 VC investments make money, right, in the world, right? And the second one sort of, it's okay, 3 fail, right? And that's the ratio everywhere. But if you don't have a proper plan that deserves the money to begin with, it's problematic. So when I first met at the time SMSGH, there wasn't a proper plan.
There wasn't a plan?
No. There was activities and there was interesting areas, but it wasn't a clear focus. I did not understand what they tried to do. So my first, I was not forceful, but I intentionally asked 12-year-old questions. If 12-year-old kids questions, right? Explain to me in simple terms. I don't want to have any lingo. I don't want any sort of Silicon Valley lingo. Just what is it, right? What are you trying to do here? Explain it to me like you do to 12-year-old, right? And that forcing clarity, right? Now that wasn't particularly difficult because Alex and Ernst are very. It was probably more relief for them. They didn't have to be like that, right? Yeah, I understand this, right? That's how we've always been before. Now we should be techie and, no, just forget that, right?
Yeah.
And that's, so I go back to the investment question. It is problematic, right? There's a lot of issues here anyway. One, which is currency devaluation. And it's very difficult to invest or borrow in foreign currency, including the whole country doing it. And then, just keeping up with that is a challenge, right? And then you have to develop a business on top of it, right? So that's not having sources of funds in your own currency is a huge problem. But big in this conversation.
Yeah.